This is Truth TOK. We are truth-oriented knights out for the promotion of meaningful discussions to foster democracy. At Truth TOK, we believe the force of argument supersedes the argument of force. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome yet again to the show Truth TOK. This is your destination for meaningful discussions to foster democracy. It's been a while, and we are back back with full force and back to continue discussions and continue uh, mind-boggling uh, debates. And hopefully, these debates yield fruits, as in it sparks up these discussions within ourselves and within our community and society, which will in turn bring up solutions to what we're having in our society or in our land, what we're, the conflict we're experiencing. Um, on our last episode, we talked or we debated on the topic Ambazonian fighters, a force for evil. On today's episode, we continue with that same debate, a return leg, and hopefully the panelists have gone back and have had a rethink and have better arguments to present to defend their cases. And you listeners back home, we enjoin you to stay tuned and watch till the end of the video and give us your take and your own point of views. So I'll start off with Sir Ngabu. Sir Ngabu, last episode, you hinged on the fact that Ambazonian fighters, you can't put crimes on them unless they have owned up to these things which have been done. And in several instances, the fighters have owned up to some of the things which have been done. And it begs the question if you still have so much regard for these people, even after owning up for some of the heinous crimes which have been committed, some of the very terrible things which have been committed. I'll give you a very good example. Late Field Marshal of Lebi Alem, sometime back, he rounded up a number of chiefs and did away with them in a society where we think that the cultural leaders or traditional leaders are custodians of our cultures, you round up chiefs, you execute them, and you make yourself a chief, you self-coronate yourself. Is this the future of liberation? Is this what we talk about when we talk about liberation of Southern Cameroons or Ambazonia, as some people call it?
Thank you for giving me the opportunities, and thank you, dear listeners, for coming once more to follow up on our debate. I don't know if it's just a pushback on me, but I will say the putting of people together and doing away with them is something that I cannot accept. I cannot stand here and pretend to say that it is correct. I think that is wrong. But I want to still go back to say until somebody says, I am responsible for this, you cannot say they are responsible. So for those that they have, and for saying that we acknowledge that these people are doing the right thing, and they are also the fact that they are doing some wrong things. It doesn't cancel the fact that they also do some wrong things. And when they do the wrong things, we despise them. We say these are wrong and should not be done. But we also still understand that these people are just a group. They are not trained. They are not. There are certain things that they don't know. So there are certain laws that they don't know. Maybe they are doing these things in their own sense, thinking that this is the right way to do things. That is why we are here to say, okay, if they do the right thing, we say, okay, this is the right one. If they own up to things that are wrong, and they actually say they did, then we will point our fingers and say, no, this is wrong. And we will continue to echo it until the message goes to the people that are concerned.
But doesn't these crimes committed already discredit the case being put forth by the proponents or the people advocating for Southern Cameroons? You put together these crimes, and then you think that in a free society, in a free Southern Cameroons, these crimes are not going to continue. These people holding the guns are going to drop their guns and suddenly just go with the flow of law-abiding nation. Is this what you think is going to happen? The other day we had these abductions, as reported by Mimime 4 Info, Ambazonian separatist fighters in Bamenda having abducted Reverend Brother Hope Walters, and who is a Mill Hill missionary, and his assistant. These things, when these things keep on happening, how do you still make the case for these guys? How do you still stand your ground for these people? It happens almost on a daily basis, or on a weekly basis, or on a monthly basis. I was talking with somebody very close the other day, and the person was saying that it is becoming too much. It's becoming unbecoming. That people have been called, have been abducted, taken, forced to pay some monies, forced to pay, say, taxes, the imposition of this liberation tax, and quarter head being caught, and being attacked for not being able to collect uh, the taxes from the indigents of this area, or for not being able to convince the indigents of this area to pay taxes. So when we put together all these things which are happening on the ground, how do you still stand and make a case for these people?
I am not actually making a case for anyone. I am just saying that when somebody does something that is good, it is good. When they do the one that is bad, it is bad as well. And I will point to an example of a state like the United States, or even Britain, or whoever. Every day we hear in the news that there was a mass shooting, there was this or there was that. That is, those kind of things cannot stop happening in a state. But it is just how the state responds to it. So you cannot say because this is happening, that is happening, it just totally discredits the whole cause because of some handful of people that did some terrible things.
Yeah. And I think it becomes a very challenging question when these crimes are committed in excess, or you have them committed maybe on a daily, on a weekly basis, and the news is flooded by these things. So Kwakwa, I think you would so much hinge on the fact that these crimes I have listed discredits the case being presented by the people of, or advocating for Southern Cameroons.
Well, thank you for this single opportunity again. Well, the case has no problem. How the case is handled, that's where there's an issue. Like I mentioned during my conclusion of last debate, is that there is an actual case for independence of Ambazonia. They have a right to self-autonomy or self-rule. But how are we going about this process of getting that self-rule? Now, you realize that, like you have mentioned from the beginning, there have been atrocious acts committed by the separatists. And it begs the question that to what extent can we go to achieve what we want? And at whose, like, the people now become they say when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffer. Basically, as of right now, the people just want to survive today and then think about tomorrow. Yes, so it has become a matter of survival for the people because you cannot trust the military that is supposed to be protecting you. You can either trust the Amber boys who are supposed to be fighting for a better life or a better future for you. So it has become a matter of, if you start hearing the shooting, you go somewhere and you hide. Like you were asking the question last time that if you are at Stikemis and it is happening like this, who will you turn to? At this point in time, it becomes very difficult to say, okay, you can gainfully turn to the Amber Boys, they protect you, or to the military. So I think our cause has no problem, but those who are fighting for that cause have kind of adulterated the process, and now we now lack that confidence. And we can be having debates like this that questions their evil. Are they a force for evil or a force for good? And looking at the fact that they've committed evil, we cannot 100% say that they are a force for good without looking at the evil. And at this particular point in time, the cause should put them in the side of light to say, okay, these guys are a force for good. Now, obviously, low key, right, is war. But the person you kill now determines if it becomes good or evil. It must be your enemy. Of course, they'll say there are collateral damages. Okay, if there's gunfire here and stray bullet pick somebody, we understand that as collateral. But if it is calculated and premeditated to cause harm to the citizens themselves, then that becomes evil and becomes an issue. And we are here in this very debate because these things have been happening. There are instances where they have done terrible things. They have gone to UB, they have kidnapped students and lecturers. They have gone to CDC plantation. They have maimed and cut, wounded people who just went there to work. They have done terrible things because people have opted to just go about their daily lives, which is in contrast to what the boys or those who are advocating for this whole crisis are saying, do like this, do like that. So if you go against them, they come to you and they harm you. Now it becomes an issue of what comes next. So you have the power now, even when you are not a legitimate government. They imagine when we have independence and you become legitimate, what becomes of the people of that territory?
So, based on your own take and how you see things and how the world operates, do you think that there would have been a better way out of going about the whole fight for recognition or for sovereignty or for independence, not engaging in an armed resistance, as they put it, or an armed defense of the land and fighting to defend and take back that land? Do you think there would have been a better way, maybe through diplomacy, you know, a non-violent approach?
In this case, it will only happen even in Europe. It's difficult for that to happen. Talk less of Africa. I think the problem when it started, this whole crisis started, I particularly was okay with the actions of the boys, the way they did it, the way they operated. All of us could sit and talk and say, wow, 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 because the way they acted with some level of decorum and integrity, because people actually run to them for protection. But over time, it evolved, and people now start using it as a means for their own benefit, not for the cause itself. That people are into it now for the benefits it brings, not for the cause of the so-called independence. That people don't even know the history behind this stuff, but they're fighting for it and they're calling themselves separatists. But if you actually see them now and say, okay, tell me, what do you think this whole crisis is all about? They might not be able to give you a rundown detail of the history of the crisis, but they're excited with the power that it brings for being a separatist fighter. So I'm thinking that the way we started this whole crisis, the struggle, it was genuine, and the people were behind them. That's why that time people could support, right? People could actually stand and say, take this for the struggle. But now the people are actually suffering from what the boys are doing to them more than the military even, because you never know. The military is doing it, the boys are doing it. At the end of the day, you are suffering. So who do you trust? So if we go back to that time when we were talking about Squad 21, the people who came there did this, you say, okay, this is how it was done. They were moving barefooted. They were doing stuff. We hear about the what we call day. It was working at that time because people were kind of admiring the actions. So people who stood up to fight for their liberation, but then they also became the oppressors. That's what the problem is. So if we want to talk about a way of going about it, they have to go back. Last time, I think Dumbo said it, that there's a way they can reclaim that integrity they had by going back to the way things were at the beginning.
For example, how do you impose taxes, what they call the liberation tax, and not in a very civil manner? How do you impose liberation taxes, which is supposed to fund the war, in a very civil manner without say inflicting pain on the people, without oppressing the people? especially people who have been a bit comfortable with the status quo? How do you go about that? Or you don't go about that in any way?
The first thing was, first of
I
all, okay, talking about who's your
yeah,
answer?
to me, I think it is not when you say impose. That is where I have a problem, because if you heard my comrade very well, he was saying that when they were doing the right things, people were giving willingly. So it is not about imposing; it is about doing the right thing and winning the confidence of the people. When you do that, if you do the right things, at the end of the day, you will see people contributing willingly, not you forcing them to contribute. If people are resistant, it means that there is something wrong. So if we want to go back to the roots, we should check very well why there is that resistance. Then you will understand that something is wrong. But because before you saw that they were not that resistant, they were even willing to go out of the way to chip in
Okay, now
for the cause.
in a war like I think both of you well understand, in a war there's what is called martial law. Martial law comes into effect. Martial law comes with imposing certain things. Martial law comes with putting the people in an uncomfortable position. It applies everywhere in the world, in every war. Now you even go as much as forcing people into becoming a military person or a fighter on the ground. There's what is called the draft. You know this very well if you've studied history, or if you know a little bit about history. Even America had a draft during the war with Vietnam. In the Vietnam War, there was the draft. People had to join the military. People were forced to join the military. Even the Nazis had to do a draft. People above 18, they said above this age, you must join the military and you must fight in this war we are engaging in, because it's for the greater good. You must contribute in this way, unless you present yourself as being physically incapacitated. That's when we will not consider you in the draft. Just as of yesterday or 2 days, is it yesterday or 2 days ago, Putin launched a draft for 160,000 military men, meaning that you do not have a choice. You must join. Even in Ukraine right now, there is a draft. People are pulled off the streets and given military training and sent to the war front. This is how wars operate. Sir Kwakwa, how can you, Ngabo, how can you now say that, okay, there must be, this amicable understanding, cajole the people? Does it operate? Does it go in that manner, Sir Kwakwa?
This is the thing, right? when you cite America, you cite Russia. Those are governments that are legitimate. The people elected those leaders to act on their behalf. In the case of Ambazonia, we don't have a legitimate government that the people actually went out to say, okay, we are voting for this government to take charge of our affairs. It's a bit difficult because not everybody acknowledges the interim government or whatever government that is taking the name of government of Ambazonia. So how do you become legitimate? How do you make the people do what you want? Is first of all making them see you as legitimate. So they don't really have that power and authority over the people to impose those things on them. You have to do something that will make people like what you are working for or the cause you are pursuing. Then they can now in turn follow what you want them to follow or what you want them to do. So you cannot just sit somewhere in America or somewhere in Europe and say interim government, and you are saying that people in the territory should do stuff like that. They will not accept because they don't recognize you as a leader over them. That's why we have an issue. So, like, we always have to go back to that point where the people were in support and fully behind the boys, even though indirectly. So the question is, how do we go back to that time? Because America can do it by law. Because as you talk of martial law, is a case where you put an end to the common law or whatever law that is there, and then you impose a different law for the sake of that particular period in time. So, who even impose martial law in Ambazonia? There's no government that has that authority.
Now, this is a war of self-determination or recognition or independence. You do not expect that there should be already a formed government or a recognized government. I don't think there's any war of self-determination where you had a legitimate, as you put it, a legitimate government. But we saw all of these things come into play. We saw drafts, not in a very official way, but we saw drafts. We saw even kids being pulled into fighting, kids as less than 18 pulled into fighting, and you have it today as people brought to court saying that, okay, you employed child soldiers and stuff like that. So it's difficult to present the case saying that it's because it's an illegitimate government, that's why you can't impose this. You can't. There cannot be a legitimate government until the self-determination that the people are fighting for. So, but the struggle has to continue. Sangabu.
That's where the people. Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
No, whatever the case, they have to win the hearts of the people to be able to get them. It's not like you do this by force. Yes, to an extent, you can employ, change the strategy per se, but for now, we know that the resistance of complying is as a result of something. So if they do that thing, the resistance is going to reduce. Because before, even like they're saying, people were willing to join. There were people that were just saying, okay, no, let me join, not by asking them. And then for people who cannot, at that time, they can say, okay, either you join or you give a certain sum that can help the people that are at the front and so on.
Mm-hmm. 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 So, Kwakwa, you are about to say something regarding this.
Kind of skip my mind now.
Okay. Yeah. But let's move further and talk about this new policy on the ground being implemented or being imposed by the separatist fighters as well, and it's been hailed by some of the leaders. Like you said, there's this very big divide as to who is the leader, who is the actual leader, who should they look up to, who in particular. But there's this policy now in place of confiscating ID cards. We saw this happening in Bui, if I'm not mistaken, in Bui County, and people's ID cards have been confiscated. We know the troubles people go through in producing these ID cards, and we know the troubles people get into for not owning an ID card or for not holding their ID cards moving 100 meters away from their houses. People have been picked up the streets and taken into dungeons. People have been asked to pay hundreds of thousands of francs and have not been able to. Some people have paid to secure their release, and that's talking about the state army or the government of La République du Cameroon through its forces carrying out these acts, taking people off the streets for not owning an ID, for not holding an ID, and these people have to pay huge sums of money to secure their releases. And then we have the separatists saying that, okay, we are going to confiscate these IDs, and it's now going to be the policy on the ground. Sangabu, is this a winning strategy? Is this a blunder?
I think it's a blunder. It's a wrong. It's the wrong way to go about it. It is a way of bringing pain to your people, and which is going to make you further lose confidence, because we have been talking about situations where people are losing faith, and people are losing faith because maybe there are some people we don't know. We don't want to say we people who maybe are not for the cause, who are doing certain things and so on. So if you want to be doing things like this and actually claiming responsibility that you are the one, I think this is something to really it's not the right way to go. This is so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So wrong.
Can we not see this as a means of of telling the central government or the government of La République du Cameroon that we are the ones in control. We determine what is going on the ground. We implement policies, and we have the manpower or we have the force to be able to implement these policies. So you shouldn't take us lightly. Sekwakwa.
There's something I was taught in school about power and authority. The person who has power just says do, and you do, without necessarily threatening you with punishment. The person who has authority says, if you don't do, then I will do like this. So what makes you do is what comes after if you don't do. You see, the situation here is the government has power, right? And the boys have authority, and they're trying to impose it on the people. If you want to make a show of force and let the government know that you are in control, the people should come and hand you the ID cards willingly. They should not be forced to do it. Nobody would deliberately come and give you the ID card and say take and keep. You always see them, you search them, you move it, and you keep it. Now you are putting the people in peril when they come in contact with the soldiers of the Republic, because they will not care if those cards were seized by the Amber separatists. They will be focused on why you don't get ID card. Why don't you have an identification card? And that becomes an issue for you. You start losing money because if you're a businessman traveling around, you cannot travel again. You have to go back to the police now probably to spend money to have a laissez-passer, and that's you having difficulties to go about your activities. So for me, it is them trying to put the people like Sengabu said, it's a blunder. You cannot keep the people in that kind of situation. In the beginning, they were taking the cards and cutting a part of it where the flag of like public was, and then that was even better because you can see identify somebody without that flag, and the government will understand that okay, that's the policy of the boys cutting the part of the ID card that had the flag. But now the entire card is taken, means you don't even have anything to present to the control or to the police at the control. It becomes a difficult situation for you. So for me, about it being a show of force is not really a thing because the people will suffer for it. It is difficult to get an ID card now in Cameroon. Then imagine you getting it and the Amber Boys seizing it.
Yeah, and I think this is a platform where we should be able to pick out some of these things which are being done and actually call them out and say that we are not comfortable with this as a people, and saying that maybe other things are being done right, but other things are being done very wrong, and we should refrain from that. We should we should condemn that in very strong terms. I think on my own part, I want to say that this is not something which is very comfortable, and if we should indeed stop such policies. What do you think about the policy of taxi colors, implementing taxi colors? The other day we had a taxi driver was shot. Well, that was a ghost town day. It's different from the whole taxi color policy. But what do you think about the taxi color policy, and then maybe the ghost town, defying ghost towns, and being met by consequences?
I think one is public, one is not. Regarding the taxis, the taxi color in Cameroon, every country has a taxi color. So it's something that is universal. So if you come to a town like Bamenda, taxis are supposed to be yellow, and then you have everybody having cars that they run taxi for with, and is some other color, or whatever color the Amber Boys will give, maybe they'll give blue because it's in the flag. It becomes an issue with you again, and the military will see you with a blue car running for a taxi. The thing is this, right? I think the Amber Boys should be enforcing things that the people want, not what they want. So if you want to have the backing of the people, do what the people actually want to do. So okay, we want this, right? You go out and do it on their behalf. So okay, if we say we don't want paying these things that they say that we should go and vote today, we will not vote. Let the boys make sure that we don't go to vote. They enforce it like that. Okay, they are saying that we must go and march today because it's 11 February. The boys come and say, okay, you will not go and march. You stand there and you fight on behalf of the programs. What the people don't want, you do to protect them from any consequences. What they want, you try to enforce. I think that's what we lack. They sit somewhere in the bush where they don't go through those controls, and they come and they impose things that affect the life of people who are actually in that will say the ground zero of ground zero. Because the taxi man is running in town, and if you go to a control, you see passengers in your car, and your taxi is not yellow. You have questions to answer. You the passenger who stopped that taxi and entered. when it is another color, it means you're also supporting those who gave that rule. You're also in trouble. They can take all of you to the barracks and you see what happens. So I would say there's cause and there's effect. The military has the negative thing that they do, but most of it sometimes comes because of the actions of the Amber Boys, and then the people suffer, and then the military acts, and the people against still suffer.
Okay. With regards to that talking point on our episode of public statement by public figures, still staying on these whole issues of policies, we saw a document flying yesterday, purportedly from one of the leaders of the revolution, in the person of Dr. Cho Ayaba. Did you see this document flying, Sir Ngabo, and what did you make of it? If you did, saying that Ambazonian soldiers, the arm of resistance, should continue with the burning of yellow taxis, ID card in our territory. No, prison is not a good place for him, and it has taken a toll on him, and calling on the fighters to escalate things. This was what was flying on the news. It was posted by Better Things and by several other people. Did you see this flying, and what did you make of it, Sir Ngabo?
Actually, I have not seen this yet, but I think for the taxi, I think it's something that is the reason doesn't make sense to me. Like my comrade just said, that is not the way we should be going. They should be going. They should be going about the things that the people want. And that is going to help their cause. If they want to go with the things that the people don't want, it's going to be met with resistance, and that is going to help the opposition to take advantage over them. So if they have to go by the things that the people want, then they are going to win the people and get the protection. But if they want to go against,
however, I think that is very challenging.
The enemy is going to take advantage.
I think that is very challenging in a war to go by what the people want and not impose some sort of a
when
martial.
When we say what the people want, it's not like everything that they want. You have to weigh, as the leader, you have to think and think and think before you take an action. You don't just take the action because you want to take an action, because this one, you and I know that it's a silly decision, right?
Like, for example, there's the policy of civil disobedience by calling on people to stay at home during on Mondays. That's the Monday ghost towns. It's not necessarily what the people want. The people want to be able to carry on with their businesses on Mondays and make money and feed their families. That is what the people want. The people do not want to stay at home and observe these ghost towns doing nothing. They want to make money. They want the economy to, keep on rotating and be able to live comfortable lives. Sir Kwakwa.
Yes, they want to, but then they tried to resist it at the very beginning, and they were met with serious consequences. You will come, they will catch you at your shop, or they will come and they'll burn it. And so you will lose everything instead of trying to make the little that you went out to make. So at one point, they were forced into accepting the Monday ghost towns. They did not do it willingly. When the lockdowns were declared that from this week to that week, people resisted at the very beginning. But then you go to your shop and you come back home, or they come into your shop and they take you from your house or from your shop and they go and they do something harmful to you. And then the others copy from that lesson and say, okay, it's better to stay at home than to go to that shop and lose my life. That money can wait on Monday and on Tuesday.
So I think that is in the same light that the other policies are coming, that people are going to resist it from the start. But when they are met, when a few are met with consequences, then it teaches them a lesson that, okay, if we should go about things like we have been going about things, then we're going to be met with consequences. And this is how wars go. Don't you think so?
They will be forced to do it, but they will do it grudgingly. I was told by a friend who recently traveled to Oku that there's a control point where they just come and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 3 boys, 3 ladies, 5,000 for the ladies, 10,000 for the men. They know that they're coming to take their 40K. They are not debating with people. If you don't have the money, they're putting you down and taking you somewhere in the bush. So they will give it not because they want, but because you know what will happen if you don't give. right? And they'll never be in support of what you're doing. And if it comes to because let me tell you something, when it comes to the point of independence, they will not just declare independence one morning that okay, Ambazonian is independent. They will have to look at the situation of the people. If in the hands of the Republic or in the hands of the Ambazonian separatists, where would they be most treated right? And if they see that in the hands of both parties, they are not treated right, that is where it continues to delay. You can look at the case of Sudan, South Sudan today. They fought for independence terribly and they got it. And from the time of that independence to today, there's never been a time when you can say that country was completely and totally stable. There's always been crisis, fighting left and right. Even now, there's conflict in that country. So you look at this kind of stuff where you don't have control. There's no way you can control these guys now. They have the power. If you get to that point where the people don't have any say anything about their own future that they are supposedly fighting for. So they don't have a choice. So if you say that they have to impose on them, okay, they are doing it because they are afraid of consequences, then it becomes an issue. People should not act because of consequences. They should act because they are in support of what you are doing. True. So it takes us back again to that beginning where people were doing it willingly, not forcefully. Now, I come again with this thing. When you come and say, okay, 5,000, 10,000, do you know how much I have on my body? Probably I don't have that 10,000. But you take it and you go, you live your good life in the bush because Kawhi Yannick said that when he was dropping his arms to come back and like an ex-combatant, he said he used to make 3 million a week in the bush. So they should not think that he's coming for any particular thing that the government will give him. He's coming because he wants to, because he has seen that he was radicalized and the whole cause is not going the way he thought it would go. So he's leaving the benefits in the bush to come to the to be an ex-combatant. So I'm asking myself, in the bush, he's making 3 million a week. How come? So he's living the life because the people are giving him the money that way that you come and say you must give. And what they do with it, okay, you can say it's to sponsor the war, but they live big with it. So you have to be able to ask from the people, but look at their situation before asking, at least feel empathy. That man probably is from the hospital and he's going back to the village, and you stop him and say he must give 10,000 just because he's a man. It's not fair.
Yeah. Okay. The reason why I brought up this post is not to talk about this particular policy like we have just talked, but the reason why I put up this statement, which was flying all over, was actually to debunk it and to say that this is what President Trump always refers to as fake news, and people do not do proper verification of their news before reporting. Renowned site like Better Things put this up. Meanwhile, the group itself and Ayaba Cho has a route of communication, a very public space or platform where he communicates, and his press secretary or the press secretary of the AGOC communicates, and they didn't verify this information before putting it out there. But then he actually put out a letter to the Ambazonian fighters and the Ambazonian soldiers, and this was the actual letter, not talking about the other policies of taxi colors and confiscating IDs and all that, but he was rather putting out a message to motivate the people who are still holding strong to the armed resistance, and telling them to keep on going. So we are already on the second segment of the program, which is public statement by public figures, and thanking them for their sacrifices. He put out another statement to Abdul Karim Ali, thanking him for his resilience and for his unwavering stance on the state of Ambazonia being non-negotiable, and thanking him for his steadfastness. And then put out another letter to Siseko Ayoktabe, thanking him for his for believing in him and for standing strong with him. And it's very important that we try as much as possible to defend facts, and because here we believe that facts don't care about your feelings. But before we talk all about this, on this show, this is what we do, and we believe that what we are doing should create an impact in the world, a very positive impact. That's why the sponsor for today's show is the brand Footprints. Footprints is a brand which believes that people should strive as much as possible to leave their impactful lives, and it encourages them and it motivates them. And here's a clip of their advert.
Did you know that based on statistics, a staggering 90% of young people within the ages of 16 and 40 live happier lives when they do not set goals? Of course you didn't. And that, my friend, is cause it's a lie. Now hold up. Before you swipe away, hear me out. Isn't it obvious that without even the indictment of statistics, individuals find great fulfillment in actually setting goals and achieving them? Of course. And that's why we recommend footprint wears, as it serves as a motivating factor and a daily reminder that within our short stay in this world, let's strive as much as possible to be impactful. And it starts with setting those goals. There's nothing as beautiful as looking back and being proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Absolutely nothing. So, my friend, you get for yourself a footprint apparel today. Go! I'm out.
Footprints is proudly brought to you by MVA Clothing. Okay, that was a clip of the advert Footprints, a brand which is standing strong with us and sponsoring this show. And Sir Kwakwa, coming back to the discussion, or Sangabo, let's come back to the discussion and talking about Dr. Cho Ayaba writing from the prison in Oslo, writing to his fellow comrades in the prison in Yaoundé. How does this help the situation, or what psychological impact, or what sort of motivation does this give, or what how does this change what is happening on the ground? What's your take generally on these releases, these communications he's made? So Kwakwa, let's take it from you.
Well, I don't know. The truth is, I don't really read this stuff. The first times I hear about them most often is during these discussions. So, but what I believe, one thing I've always known is that I've heard Karim speak, and is it Karim Abdul? Is it
Yes,
Abdul Karim? Yes. So I've heard when he was still is this guy around? Okay. When he was still out before he was jailed, I used to follow some of his programs and the way he spoke. And the truth of the matter is, I loved his way, his approach to this whole conflict. And the fact that Ayaba Cho is writing to him and probably reaching out for the sake of this cause, for some persons who look up to Abdul Karim as somebody, the way he's approached, because he was much more giving an analysis. I like the way he used to approach it diplomatically speaking. I remember when there was a time for violence at the Northwest, he came out and stood, even when the military was shooting and people were running up and down, he was there. He stood his ground. I think his courage is an inspiration to the people. So the fact that this guy wrote to him will call up his name again in the discussions. Just the fact that his name will be mentioned, people can think about his heroism, and I think it can boost the morale of even the fighters and the people. So we never know. It can have adverse effects as well. Like, okay, this is a person that radicalizes people, and he's writing to this person who is much more different, and is that they are working together. So I just look at it from both sides. But the general picture is that I see a sense of unity as well among those who are spearheading the whole cause. The fact that he can write to each other, or he can write to the person in prison in Cameroon, also says that, okay, they're talking mouth to mouth. Because I read an article that said the armor fighters are affiliated to particular leaders abroad. You have this group that is loyal to this person, and that group that is loyal to this person. The late Field Marshals group was loyal to one part. I think this Ayaba Cho, or is it some other person? I've forgotten the name now. I'll check that. And then that.
Chris Anu and Sako, when they were still together.
Okay, good. Then some other group is much more loyal to another. But the fact that the leaders can be speaking, and this is what we should see more. The open communication between these leaders that, okay, this person is talking to this one, and I will hope that we can see a response from Karim, and it says a lot about the people, or to the people about their leaders.
Sangabo, you had something to say.
I think my comrade has said it all. I think that what the people need is they come together of all the people that are spearheading the whole thing. So if this is the sign, then I think the people should be glad. Over.
Okay. One last question. When we look at the reports by international organizations or international bodies, we come up with, we can see that the numbers being put out there stands at about 6,500 people, or about 7,000 people killed in this conflict or in this war. It makes me want to ask the question, because we are talking about Amazonian fighters being a force for evil. If we should just hang on to this particular number being presented by the international body, though the number is disputed by the people advocating for Southern Cameroon, saying that way over 10,000 or maybe even way over 20,000 people have been killed in this crisis. But if we should just hang with the figures given by some of these international organizations as 6,500, what do you think that, from a very objective stand, what do you think, Kwakwa, that we can put as a percentage being perpetuated by the Amazonian fighters out of these 6,500 people who have been deceased or left?
I would say 2,500.
And
2,500
saying that 4,000
is a military.
Sangabu, what would you say if we were to look at these figures?
6,500, 500 for the boys.
500 for the boys. Now, I know these figures also have the military casualties in them, if I'm not mistaken, and the Amazonian fighters, their casualties. So this is a very general figure, because they said the number of people killed. So I want to think that it's also the military, the Amazonian fighters, and then the civilians. But in a deeper discussion, I think we should be able to know how many Ambazonian fighters the military has been able to kill. They should be able to have that public discussion, and it should be very open to the individuals or to the citizens or civilians, that this is the cause of the war. This is what we have been able to achieve, and we'll be able to crush the resistance in less than no time, because out of about 10,000 fighters that we know exist, we have been able to do away with 8,000 of them, and we're left with just 2,000. But when there's no communication from the defense sector of the military, it makes it very difficult to analyze the gains on the ground. And I think that that's what is lagging in this war. But we had the Prime Minister of La République du Cameroon come up in a public statement as well, saying that this resistance is going to be crushed in less than no time, in a public statement, saying that efforts to disrupt and end activities on network of separatists and their sponsors across the globe will be intensified in the days ahead. So how feasible are we looking at this, Sir Kwakwa? We know that when the crisis just started, people like Atanganji say we have 2 weeks to crush the resistance, and they are going to be totally obliterated.
Well, when you look at the fact that the interim government, Sisiko and the others, or the government, Ambazonian government was, and others in Nigeria were arrested. You look at the fact that Ayaba Cho is still in jail, and realize that at the end of the day, the government of Cameroon has more support internationally than those fighting for separation. So if we are looking at it globally speaking, they have a greater advantage than the boys. But as to it being crushed, like they say, I've heard this before, and I've heard the timeline in two weeks in this time, and we're still here. This is 2025. We started in 2016. This is 9 years going. So I'm thinking that it's just a saying to show that the government is in control. But war is not something that you stop. Like we say, and I've mentioned throughout this discussion that they practice guerrilla warfare. So it's guerrilla warfare. So they will attack today and they go back and they retreat. They even come to the border and they flex a bit. You don't even know. And they're on time to go back to the villages and they fight. So basically, they are active and they're inactive. You never know when you have crushed them until you will say, okay, maybe some years will pass without any action. So today they're quiet in Bafut, everything is not happening. You go to maybe in Cambe, nothing is happening. You go to maybe Manfi, nothing is happening. And then in 2 weeks' time, you start hearing violence and fighting left and right. So I'll think that, well, it's just to show that the government is in control and they probably to with the cry with elections coming up, they want to reassure the people that okay, everything is in control and probably elections will go on as planned because it is because of the elections that he's saying it now. So okay, before that October we were electing the president of the country, which will be probably by the way, and they will just say okay, you in your region where the crisis is ongoing, you will be able to go and vote, which is false. It will not happen.
So Ngabu, what do you make of this statement?
I think it's a statement, a show of force to say that they are in control. And that is what every leader will tell their people so that they will know that they are winning. But we have seen that words have not been actions for the past 9 years, like Comrade has just said. So we don't think that this is going to be different. It's just as a result of the upcoming elections and things like that. So we just expect things to be the way they have been. If nothing is done the right way, I don't see any change in the near future.
Well, so Kwakwa
made
a statement about the upcoming elections and was already giving a prediction of the results. I don't know if you also have a prediction of the results. We are thinking that this year there's going to be some significant change, like the bishops of Cameroon gathered together and said, oh, the people of Cameroon should be awaiting some significant change come the elections 2024. So do you have a prediction as well? And let's conclude on that. Maybe we'll discuss on the particular aspect of elections in a subsequent edition. But what's your immediate prediction?
Well, for me, there will be no difference. So long as Elekam is still in charge of elections in Cameroon, probably will win if he runs. Even at 98 years, he will win. So
Sengabu.
I think that when you look at real democratic worlds, they actually put limits for presidency because they know how difficult it is to win an incumbent. So for that reason, saying that somebody is just going to come from nowhere and win somebody that has been in power for 42 years, who knows every little corner, every village, every part of this place and has put everything in place, the resources in their control, the management, the ELECAM that is managing elections, the people that are the heads of ELECAM is being appointed by the and all those things, the election, but we know that the facts and
I think what you're trying to say, the network is breaking, is that your own prediction is that the incumbent is still going to make his way as the president, so serving again till 50. He's going to probably celebrate his 50th anniversary as president, there. And I don't have a prediction to present to our fellow viewers today, but maybe I'll have a prediction in the coming days. Maybe we might see a change, as they say. And I think this platform is a platform where we should strive as much as possible to always have these meaningful discussions, and we are also engaging or calling on our fellow viewers to engage with us in these discussions and these debates. Ask us troubling questions, ask us difficult questions. We should be able to have these difficult discussions if we want to grow as a society. And please do not forget to follow us on our social media channels, or on all our channels where we put out our content. On Facebook at Truth TOK, on YouTube at Truth TOK as well. And write to us as well on our email. We're going to have that on the YouTube, the thumbnail, so that you can reach out to us. And let's collaborate. We're also calling for sponsors to sponsor this project, because it's a huge project. And just reach out to us and we can discuss the whole project in detail, and how we intend to go about it. And we appreciate anyone who is listening, and the people who have been true to the cause, and who are advocating for change, and who are doing something out there. And we keep on encouraging individuals to do the little they can to achieve the change that we intend to see. Thank you from my own end and from Truth TOK. Until next time, it's bye-bye.